He, a focused magnate, carries the guilt of having abandoned his first love. She, a young pregnant woman abandoned and without resources, finds a luxury bassinet and an enigmatic note at her doorstep. For your baby. He or she has a father who loves him and will be there. After the birth, Dominic Reed, her old flame, reappears. With teary eyes and a choked voice, he confesses that he learned of her desperate situation and secretly intervened, revealing that the love he felt for her never died, and that he wholeheartedly wishes to be the father of this baby, not the biological father, but the father who loves her and will be there. Watch this story until the end. You will be surprised by this story. If you like love stories, romance, subscribe to this channel, leave your comment. We post videos like this every day. Continuing. The rain hammered against the windows of the small apartment in Brooklyn, while Isabella Costa carefully arranged the last items in the nursery. At 28, she had learned to find beauty in the simple details. A handcrafted mobile she made herself, hand-sewn curtains, a second-hand crib she painted white during sleepless nights. Her brown hair cascaded in waves over her shoulders, framing a face that still held the sweetness of youth, despite the invisible marks life had left. 7 months of pregnancy weighed on her rounded belly, but it was the weight of loneliness that bothered her the most. 3 weeks ago, Raphael had disappeared. He simply vanished, taking with him not only his promises of eternal love, but also the savings she had accumulated over years of working as an art teacher in a public school. The note he left was cruel in its simplicity. "I'm not ready for this. Sorry, Isa." Isabella gently touched her belly, whispering words of love to the baby who was moving restlessly. "We're going to be okay, my love. Your mommy will take care of you." The tears that threatened to fall were interrupted by the insistent ringing of the doorbell. Across town, in the elegant neighborhood of the Upper East Side, Dominic Reed adjusted the knot of his Italian silk tie as he gazed at the Manhattan skyline through the glass wall of his penthouse office. At 30, he had built a technology and design empire that rivaled the largest companies in the country. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and his blue eyes reflected the same calculated coldness that had made him feared in boardrooms. But behind the impeccable facade, Dominic carried a weight that no financial success could alleviate. Every night, before falling asleep, his thoughts flew to a young woman with brown eyes he had met in college, Isabella Costa. The name still made his heart race, even after 8 years. The secretary entered discreetly. "Mr. Reed, the private investigator is here with the report you requested." Dominic nodded, maintaining the professional composure he had cultivated over the years. The investigator, a discreet, middle-aged man, entered carrying a brown folder. "Mr. Reed, I have the information on Isabella Costa." The man's voice was neutral, professional. "She lives in Brooklyn, works as a teacher and—" He hesitated. "Is 7 months pregnant. She was abandoned by her boyfriend 3 weeks ago. Her financial situation is complicated." The words hit Dominic like a punch to the gut. Isabella pregnant, abandoned, alone. The same woman he had left behind in the name of a business opportunity abroad, giving in to family pressures and his own youthful cowardice. The woman he had never been able to forget. "Where exactly does she live?" Dominic's voice came out hoarser than he intended. Back at the apartment in Brooklyn, Isabella opened the door, expecting to find perhaps a neighbor or the delivery guy. Instead, she was faced with a tall, elegantly dressed man holding a bouquet of white lilies, her favorite flowers. Her heart stopped. "Hi, Isa." The voice was unmistakable, even after 8 years. Deeper, more mature, but still the same one that whispered her name in the youthful mornings. "Dominic?" The name came out as an incredulous whisper. She held onto the doorframe, feeling her legs weaken. He was there, real, more handsome than in her memory. But there was something different in his eyes, a deep sadness that she didn't recognize. "Can I come in? We need to talk." Isabella looked at her prominent belly, then at him, impeccably dressed, and felt a confused mixture of anger, pain, and something dangerously close to hope. 8 years. 8 years since he had disappeared from her life without explanation, leaving only a cold note and a hole in her chest that had never completely healed. "Why are you here, Dominic?" She didn't step away from the door, creating a physical barrier between them. He held out the flowers, but she didn't take them. "I heard about your situation, and I couldn't stay away knowing that you were..." His eyes briefly dropped to her belly, then returned to meet hers. "That you were alone." "Alone?" Isabella laughed, but there was no humor in her voice. "I've been alone for 8 years, Dominic. Why does it matter now?" The rain continued to fall outside, creating a melancholic soundtrack for the reunion that neither of them had planned. Dominic took a step back, respecting her space, but didn't look away. "Because I never stopped loving you, Issa, and because this time, I'm not going to run." Dominic's words echoed in the small apartment like distant thunder. Isabella felt the baby move restlessly, as if sensing the tension that had taken over the room. She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to process the impossible reality of having the man she had loved and hated the most standing at her door. "You can't just show up here and say that." Her trembling voice betrayed the struggle between her heart and her reason. "You don't have that right, Dominic." He lowered the flowers, visibly shaken by her coldness. "I know I don't, but when I heard you were going through difficulties..." "How did you hear?" Isabella interrupted him, her eyes flashing with indignation. "Are you investigating me, spying on me?" Dominic hesitated, knowing that any answer would be damning. "I have contacts. It doesn't matter how I found out. It matters that..." "Of course it matters." She took a step back, instinctively protecting her belly. "You disappeared from my life like a coward, left me waiting for months, made me believe I meant nothing to you, and now you show up here thinking you can be my savior." The words cut Dominic like blades. He had imagined this reunion 1,000 times, but never like this, with her pregnant with another man's child, hurt, distrustful. Still, he couldn't deny what he felt when he saw her, even with her eyes red from held-back tears, even with the anger etched on her face. She was still the most beautiful woman he had ever known. "Issa, please, let me explain." "Explain what? That you chose money over me? That your family got what they wanted and convinced you that a poor girl from Brooklyn wasn't worthy of the Reed heir?" Her voice rose, years of resentment finally finding an outlet. Dominic paled. How did she know about the family pressure? It wasn't like that. "Wasn't it?" Isabella laughed bitterly. "Didn't your mother show up at my apartment offering me money to leave you alone? Didn't she tell me you were already engaged to an heiress from Greenwich, Connecticut, and that I was just a temporary distraction?" The revelation hit Dominic like a punch to the stomach. His mother had lied to him, said that Isabella didn't want to see him anymore, that she herself had asked him not to come back. All this time, he had believed he had been rejected. "My mother went to see you." His voice came out hoarse, disbelieving. "You didn't know." Isabella studied his face, looking for signs of lies. For a moment she saw something that made her hesitate, a genuine pain, a real surprise. Before he could answer, she bent over slightly, one hand supporting herself on the wall, the other on her belly. "Issa, are you okay?" Dominic took a step forward, instinctively wanting to support her. "I'm fine, it's just..." She took a deep breath, waiting for the contraction to pass. "It's just a Braxton Hicks contraction. It happens when I get stressed. You should be resting, not arguing at your doorstep." Without asking permission, he entered, dropping the flowers on the small console table and gently guiding her to the couch. Isabella wanted to resist, wanted to kick him out, but the emotional and physical exhaustion was greater than her pride. She let herself be guided, hating the way his touch still made her feel safe. Dominic looked around the apartment, noticing every detail. The walls that needed a new coat of paint, the simple but well cared for furniture, the nursery visible through the half-open door. His heart ached as he imagined Isabella there, alone, preparing for motherhood without any support. "Where's the baby's father?" The question came out before he could censor himself. Isabella's eyes filled with tears. "Where do you think he is? He followed your example and disappeared when things got tough." The comparison was cruel and accurate. Dominic felt himself collapsing inside. "Isa, no." She raised her hand, stopping him from continuing. "You don't understand. I can't do this again. I can't believe in promises, in pretty words. My son needs stability, not someone who can disappear at any moment. What if I prove to you that this time it's different?" "How?" The challenge in her voice was palpable. Dominic took his phone out of his pocket and made a quick call. "Marina, cancel all my appointments this week and find the best OB/GYN in New York. I want an appointment for a priority patient today." "Dominic, no!" Isabella began to protest. He hung up and turned to her. "How many months pregnant are you? When was your last prenatal appointment?" "I don't need your charity." "It's not charity, Isa. It's love. A love that never died, even with all the pain and all the mistakes I made." Isabella stared at him, looking for lies, for manipulation. But there was something in his eyes that made her remember the boy she had met in college, before the empire, before the powerful family, before everything went wrong. Dominic's cell phone rang. He answered it without taking his eyes off her. "Yes, Marina." "Perfect. Dr. Eleanor Harding at 3 p.m. at the Manhattan Medical Center." He hung up and put his phone away. "You have an appointment today with the best OB/GYN in the city." "I'm not going. Then I'm going to have to carry you there, because I'm not leaving here knowing that you and the baby might need medical attention." The determination in his voice was unwavering. Isabella knew that tone. When Dominic decided something, there was no force in the world that would make him give up. It was one of the things she had loved and hated most about him. "And after the appointment? Are you going to disappear again?" "After the appointment, we're going to talk, really talk, about everything that happened, about the lies that separated us, about what I feel for you." He knelt beside the couch, getting down to her eye level. "And about how I intend to take care of you and this baby if you let me." Isabella felt her heart race. It was too dangerous to believe, but also impossible to ignore the sincerity in his voice. "An appointment. But that doesn't mean I've forgiven you, and it doesn't mean we're going to talk about anything other than medical exams." Dominic smiled. The first genuine smile in years. "An appointment." But when he stood up, and she saw again his imposing height, the perfect cut of his suit, the natural confidence that emanated from him, Isabella knew that she had just opened a door that she might not be able to close again. The medical appointment had been a success. Dr. Eleanor Harding, an elegant woman in her 50s, had reassured Isabella about the baby's condition and prescribed vitamins and rest. Dominic had remained discreetly in the waiting room, but Isabella had noticed how he stood up anxiously when she came out, his eyes searching for signs that everything was all right. Now, in his car, a black Mercedes with beige leather interior, the silence between them was charged with unresolved tension. Isabella watched the city pass by the window, trying to ignore the masculine scent that still reminded her of lazy afternoons in college. "Are you hungry?" Dominic's voice broke the silence. "I'm always hungry lately." She touched her belly, allowing herself a small smile. "I think he's going to be a big eater like his father." The words came out naturally, and only then did she realize what she had said. Discomfort filled the car instantly. "Sorry, I didn't," she began. "You don't have to apologize." Dominic stopped at a traffic light and turned to her. "Isa, about the baby's father. Do you want to talk about it?" Isabella sighed deeply. "There's not much to talk about. Raphael is a teacher too. I met him 2 years ago. He seemed different from the others. Caring, attentive." Her voice got lower, or at least I thought he was. "What happened?" "When I found out I was pregnant, he was excited at first. He talked about marriage, about starting a family. Isabella laughed bitterly. He even helped choose the baby's name. We were going to call him Gabriel if it was a boy. Dominic felt a pang of irrational jealousy. And then he started acting strange. He'd disappear for days, saying he was dealing with work stuff. I found out he was lying when a friend told me she saw him in South Beach with another woman. She wiped away a tear that stubbornly trickled down. When I confronted him, he confessed everything, said he wasn't ready to be a father, that he felt trapped. And then he stole my savings and disappeared. Her voice was almost a whisper. $20,000 that I had saved for 5 years. Money to buy a better apartment, to give the baby stability. The anger that Dominic felt was instant and visceral. His fists clenched on the steering wheel. Son of a... No! Isabella interrupted him. It's not worth getting angry. I've already been through that phase. The traffic light turned green, but Dominic didn't move immediately. How can you be so strong? Because I don't have a choice. I have a life growing inside me that depends on me. She stared at him with an intensity that disarmed him. You don't understand that, Dominic. You've always had choices, always had somewhere to run, people to solve your problems, money to buy solutions. You think my life is easy. I don't think I know. You live on Fifth Avenue, have an empire, a powerful family. Your problems are different from mine. Dominic drove in silence for a few minutes before parking in front of a small diner in Greenwich Village. Come on, let's get something to eat, and I'll tell you about my choices. The diner was cozy, with wooden booths and plants scattered around the room. Dominic chose a booth in the corner, away from the other customers. After they ordered, grilled salmon for her, which the doctor had recommended, and steak with mushroom sauce for him, an uncomfortable silence settled in again. You want to know why I disappeared 8 years ago? Dominic finally broke the silence. Isabella stared at him, part of her wanting to know, part of her afraid of the answer. Yes, my father was dying. The words came out simple, direct, but loaded with pain. Pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave him 3 months. Isabella felt her heart clench. Dominic, you remember how I talked about him? How I admired him? Dominic fiddled with his napkin, avoiding looking at her. He had built the company from scratch, coming from a poor family in upstate New York. He was my hero. I remember. When he found out about the disease, he called me for a conversation. He said that the company was in crisis, that there were bad investments, huge debts. If I didn't take over immediately and go to Silicon Valley to close a deal that would save everything, Reed Tech would go bankrupt in 6 months. The waiter brought the drinks. Orange juice for her, whiskey for him. Dominic took a sip before continuing, but it wasn't just that. He said that if I stayed with you, if I kept playing boyfriend with a girl who couldn't help me financially or professionally, I would be condemning not only the company, but also the jobs of hundreds of employees and the future of our family. Isabella felt a lump in her throat. And you believed him? I was 22, Issa. Young in love, but also haunted by the idea of disappointing my dying father. Dominic finally looked at her, his eyes watery. He made me choose between you and saving everything he had built. And you chose like a coward. His voice was hoarse. I thought it would be temporary, that I would solve everything in a few months and come back to you. I wrote hundreds of letters that I never sent, rehearsed thousands of phone calls that I never made. Isabella felt the tears start to flow. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you let me choose too? Because I didn't want you to wait for me. Because I thought it would be easier for you to hate me than to keep waiting for something that I didn't know if I could fulfill. Dinner arrived, but neither of them had any appetite. Isabella pushed the salmon around on her plate, processing the revelations. Your father, he died? No. Dominic laughed bitterly. That's the cruelest part of the story. He recovered. The chemotherapy worked, and he lived another 6 years. He died last year of a heart attack, ironically in the peak of health. And the company was never in crisis. I found that out 3 years later, when I took full control. My father lied about everything, about the financial situation, about the urgency, about everything. Dominic took another sip of whiskey. He just didn't think you were suitable for me. Isabella leaned back in her chair, feeling like she had been punched. So you found out you were manipulated and what? Decided it was too late to come back? Decided that I didn't deserve your forgiveness, that you had probably moved on, found someone better. He hesitated, as if he was about to reveal something even more painful. And because there was something I never told you, something that made me feel like maybe my father was right about me not being good enough for you. Isabella frowned. What do you mean? Dominic took a deep breath, clearly struggling with the words. There are things about my family, about how we built our fortune that aren't exactly honorable. Secrets that could destroy everything if they come to light. Before Isabella could ask more, Dominic's cell phone rang. He looked at the screen and paled. Sorry, I need to take this. He stood up quickly. Hello, Marina? What do you mean they know about Isabella? Isabella felt a chill run down her spine. Someone knew about her. Dominic returned to the table with a tense face, putting the phone in the inside pocket of his blazer. Isabella noticed how his hands were trembling slightly, a sign of nervousness that she recognized from her college days. Dominic, what's going on? Who knows about me? He sat down heavily, running his hands through his hair. The press. Someone leaked information about my visit to your apartment this morning and about the medical appointment. Isabella's blood ran cold. What do you mean? The press? There's a reporter from the New York Times calling the office, asking questions about my romantic involvement with a pregnant teacher. They have photos, Issa. Photos? Her voice came out as a horrified whisper. Of me going into your building, of us leaving together for the appointment, of us here at the diner. Dominic held her hand across the table. Marina said that the story will be out tomorrow morning if I don't give an interview clarifying the situation by 10 tonight. Isabella pulled her hand away sharply. Clarifying how? Saying that I'm just an acquaintance? An ex-girlfriend that you're helping out of charity? No, that's not it. That's exactly it. She stood up abruptly, causing some curious glances from the other customers. You're going to deny me again, aren't you? Like 8 years ago? Dominic stood up too, throwing money on the table. Let's talk in the car. Not here. They left the diner in tense silence. Once in the Mercedes, Isabella turned to him, her eyes shining with anger and fear. My life is going to turn into a circus because of you. My students, my co-workers, my principal, everyone will know that I'm the pregnant mistress of the tycoon, that I'm a gold digger who got pregnant to blackmail her rich ex-boyfriend. No one will think that. Everyone will think that. Isabella was almost screaming. You don't understand how the world works for people like me, Dominic. I don't have a PR team. I don't have expensive lawyers. I don't have a powerful family protecting me. Dominic started the car but didn't move. What if I tell the truth? The whole truth? What truth? That I love you. That I've always loved you. That you're the most important woman in my life. And that I intend to take care of you and your baby. Isabella stared at him, incredulous. You're crazy? That's only going to make things worse. They'll think I staged this whole situation to win you back. Dominic's cell phone rang again. This time, it was an unknown number. Hello, Mr. Reed? The voice on the other end was slick, professional. This is Robert Baker from the New York Times. I'd like to ask some questions about your relationship with Ms. Isabella Costa. Dominic put it on speakerphone, gesturing for Isabella to remain silent. I have nothing to declare. We have information that you visited her residence this morning, took her to a medical appointment at the Manhattan Medical Center with Dr. Eleanor Harding, and now you're having dinner together at the Greenwich Village Bistro. Ms. Costa is 7 months pregnant. Would you like to comment on the nature of this relationship? Isabella covered her face with her hands. They knew everything, every move, every detail. No comment. Dominic was about to hang up when the reporter continued. We also have information about your romantic past in college and about the interesting circumstances of the disappearance of the biological father of the child. Mr. Rafael Santos, who coincidentally owed money to a subsidiary company of the Reed Group. The silence in the car was deafening. Isabella looked at Dominic, who had paled completely. As I said, no comment. The story will be out tomorrow at 6 in the morning, Mr. Reed, with or without your comments. Dominic hung up the phone forcefully. His hands were trembling visibly now. Dominic! Isabella's voice was low, dangerous. What did he mean by Rafael owing money to one of your companies? Isa, answer me. She turned completely to him. What did you do? Dominic took a deep breath, knowing that there was no more escaping the truth. When I found out that he had abandoned you and stolen your money, I did some investigating. What kind of investigating? I found out that he owed money to loan sharks, a lot of money. He had taken out loans to bet on online games. Dominic couldn't look her in the eyes. I bought his debt. Isabella felt the world spin. You bought the debt? For 3 times more than he stole from you, and then I made him a proposition. What proposition? Her voice was a terrified whisper. That he disappear from your life permanently, not try to contact you or the baby, and in exchange I would forgive the debt and also give him $50,000 to start a new life in another state. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of the rain that had started falling again. Isabella stared at him as if she were seeing a stranger. You blackmailed the father of my child to abandon me. I protected you from a man who would only make you suffer more. You decided for me, she was screaming now. You took away my choice, my chance to try to work things out with him, the chance for my son to know his biological father. He didn't deserve to know this baby. He stole from you, he abandoned you, and are you better than him? You who also abandoned me, you who now manipulates my life as if I were a doll. Dominic tried to hold her hand again, but she pulled away violently. Don't touch me. You're just like your father, just like your mother. Manipulative, controlling, thinking you can buy and sell people like merchandise. Isa, please take me home, now. You can't go home. If the story comes out tomorrow, your house will be surrounded by journalists. The reality of the situation began to weigh on Isabella. She couldn't go home, she couldn't go to work, she had nowhere to go, and all because of the man sitting next to her, who claimed to love her, but continued to make decisions for her as if she were incapable. So what do you suggest, Dominic? That I disappear too? That I disappear like you did 8 years ago? Come with me. What? To my house? Until we get through this storm, Isabella laughed bitterly. Go to your house and confirm all the suspicions about us? If we stay hidden until I resolve this with the press, and how are you going to resolve it? Buying the newspaper too? Dominic didn't answer, which was answer enough. Her cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. With a heavy heart, she answered. Hello? Ms. Costa. This is Michelle Davis from People and Style magazine. I'd like to hear your version of your relationship with Dominic Reed. Isabella hung up quickly, but the phone rang again immediately. Another reporter. They have my number. Her voice was panicked. How did they get my number? Dominic watched her, seeing the despair grow in her eyes, and made a decision that would change everything. Isa, look at me. He held her face in his hands, forcing her to look at him. I'm going to publicly admit that you're the woman I love. I'm going to say that I intend to marry you and officially adopt this child as my own. Isabella's eyes widened. You're crazy? I'm going to face my family, society, all the prejudices, but first I need to protect you. And for that, you need to come with me, now. Her phone rang again. This time, she didn't even look to see who it was. With tears in her eyes and her heart torn between love and hate, Isabella realized that she had no choice. Dominic's mansion on Fifth Avenue was even more imposing than Isabella had imagined. 3 floors of glass and marble overlooking Central Park, surrounded by impeccable gardens and discreet but evident security. She felt like an intruder in a world that would never belong to her. The maid has prepared the guest room for you. Dominic carried the small suitcase that they had quickly picked up from her apartment, dodging two journalists who were already prowling around the building. There's overlooking the garden, it's more private. Isabella followed him up the marble staircase, observing the expensive paintings on the walls, the crystal chandeliers, the furniture that cost more than her annual salary. Each step made her feel smaller, more out of place. "Dominic!" The female voice that echoed through the hall made them stop abruptly. An elegant woman in her late 50s descended the stairs with the posture of someone who had always been in charge of everything around her. Perfectly coiffed blonde hair, designer dress, discreet but expensive jewelry. Isabella recognized her immediately from social photos. Helena Reed, the matriarch of the family. "Mother!" Dominic's voice became immediately colder. "I didn't know you were here." "Obviously you didn't know, otherwise you wouldn't have brought this person." Helena's eyes scanned Isabella from head to toe, stopping deliberately at her prominent belly. "We need to talk. Now, Isa, can you go up? It's the first room on the right." Dominic handed her the suitcase, but she saw the tension in his muscles. "No, she stays. What I have to say concerns her too." Helena descended the last steps, approaching them. "Ms. Costa, I imagine you remember me." "How could I forget?" Isabella's voice came out firmer than she expected. "Good, then let's get straight to the point." Helena opened her Hermes bag and took out a thick envelope. $500,000 in cash for you to disappear from my son's life again. "Mother!" Dominic took a step forward, but Helena raised her hand. "You've already caused enough damage, Dominic. Your little reunion this afternoon has become news on every gossip site in the city. Reed Tech's shares have dropped 3 points in the last 2 hours alone." Isabella felt her blood boil. "Do you think I came after him for money?" "I don't think, dear. I'm sure." Helena smiled coldly. "A pregnant and abandoned little teacher, without money, without a decent family. Of course she came after the rich ex-boyfriend." "Helena, enough!" Dominic was furious. "Enough nothing. You want to know what's happened in the last 3 hours? I've received 7 calls, 7, from Richard Sterling, our largest investor, worried about your emotional instability. From Cynthia Vanderbilt, who was interested in you for her daughter. From the president of the country club, asking if it's true that you're supporting a pregnant mistress." Helena enumerated on her fingers, each word a stab, not to mention the phone that won't stop ringing with journalists wanting statements about the Reed scandal. Isabella felt the ground give way beneath her feet. She was destroying his life, exactly as Helena wanted her to feel. "You have 2 options, Ms. Costa." Helena continued, relentless. "Take this money and disappear, or face the consequences of getting involved in something much bigger than you." "What consequences?" Dominic asked, but there was fear in his voice. Helena smiled, and it was a cruel smile. "Well, since you want to know, I received a very interesting call from Robert Baker at the New York Times. It seems he has more information about our family than we imagined." A deadly silence took over the hall. Isabella looked between mother and son, feeling that she was about to discover something terrible. "What information?" Dominic's voice came out hoarse. "About how your father really built the Reed empire, about the fraudulent contracts of the 90s, about the money that disappeared from Enron during that scandal." Helena played with her jewelry, each word calculated to cause maximum impact. "About the offshore accounts that still exist." Isabella saw Dominic pale completely. "That's a lie." "Is it a lie?" Helena laughed. "Your father may be dead, dear, but his crimes didn't die with him. And if that information leaks, it won't just be our reputation that's at stake. It will be our freedom." The revelation hit Isabella like a punch to the stomach. The Reed fortune was built on corruption and crimes. The man she had loved, who claimed to have changed, was heir to a dirty empire. "Dominic," she whispered, "I didn't know." He turned to her, despair in his eyes. "Isa, I swear I didn't know." "Of course you knew." Helena interrupted. You took over the company 5 years ago, signed documents, moved accounts, made investments with money whose origin has always been questionable. In the eyes of the law, you're as guilty as your father. Isabella leaned against the wall, feeling a strong contraction. The stress was affecting the baby. And you know what's the most interesting part of the conversation I had with Mr. Baker? Helena continued, venomous. He told me that he has a source within the IRS, someone who can confirm all this information, someone who, for a considerable sum, is willing to provide documents that would prove everything. You're being blackmailed, Dominic concluded, horror in his voice. We're being blackmailed. And the condition for silence is very simple. You end this ridiculous romance publicly, marry someone appropriate from our social circle, and never see this woman again. Isabella felt nauseous. So that's it? You're going to use crimes from the past to drive me away from him? No, dear. Helena approached her, speaking low, venomous. We're going to use the crimes of the present, because if Dominic doesn't do what they're asking, it won't just be him who goes to jail. It will be you, too. Me? Why? Because in the last 6 hours, you've become the beneficiary of an overseas bank account, an account with $15 million in dirty money. Helena showed a screen of her cell phone with a bank transfer. Dominic opened this account in your name during the medical appointment this afternoon, officially as a gift for you and the baby. Isabella looked at Dominic, who was petrified. You did this. I thought about protecting you financially, but I didn't know about the origin of the money. His voice was broken. Of course you knew. Helena put away her phone. And now both are accomplices, unless, of course, Ms. Costa accepts our initial proposal. Dominic's phone rang. He looked at the screen and his face turned grey. It's Robert Baker. Answer it, Helena ordered, and put it on speakerphone. With trembling hands, Dominic answered. Mr. Reed, this is Robert again. I believe your mother has already updated you on our conversation. What do you want? Dominic asked. Well, the situation has become a little more complicated. My source has decided that he wants more money, a lot more, and the deadline has been moved forward. How much? $50 million, transferred by tomorrow at 6 in the morning. And the public separation between you and Ms. Costa announced by noon. Isabella felt the world collapse. 50 million, a fortune she had never imagined existed, being used to destroy the only love she had ever known. And if we don't do it, Dominic asked. Then at 6 in the morning, the full story comes out. With documents, recordings, irrefutable evidence, the Reed empire ends, you go to jail, and Ms. Costa too, as an accomplice in the money laundering scheme. The call ended. The silence in the hall was suffocating. Isabella looked at Dominic, seeing in him no longer the man she had loved, but a dangerous stranger who had put her life and the life of her baby at risk. I need to get out of here. Her voice was a whisper. Isa, please, I need to get out of here, she shouted, startling even Helena. Away from you, away from this family, away from all this madness. But when she turned to leave, Helena blocked her path. I'm sorry, dear, but now you're in the middle of all this. You can't just walk away. Her smile was glacial, at least not until noon tomorrow. The early morning at the Reed mansion was the longest of Isabella's life. Locked in the guest room, Helena had discreetly confiscated the car keys and posted security guards for her protection. She had spent hours looking out the window, watching the city lights twinkle while feeling the baby move restlessly in her belly. At 5 in the morning, soft knocks on the door awoke her from the restless nap she had finally managed to get. Isa? It was Dominic's voice. Can I come in? She opened the door and was startled by his appearance. Red eyes, unshaven, disheveled hair. He seemed to have aged 10 years in one night. I transferred the money. His first words were like a punch. The 50 million. I just confirmed the transfer. Isabella backed away from him, leaning against the dresser. So that's it. You chose to save yourself. I chose to protect you. He entered the room, closing the door behind him. If I hadn't paid, you would have been arrested too, Isa, and our baby. It's not our baby. Her voice came out cutting. And you didn't protect me. You used me as an excuse to do what you already wanted to do. Save your skin. Dominic approached, but she raised her hands, stopping him. Isa, His phone rang. Robert Baker again. With a tense face, Dominic answered on speakerphone. Mr. Reed, I've confirmed receipt of the transfer. Now we need the second part of the agreement. What second part? Dominic's voice was hoarse with exhaustion. You need to make a public statement. Today, at 10 in the morning, in front of your company, denying any romantic relationship with Ms. Costa and clarifying that she is just a college ex-girlfriend that you helped out of Christian charity. Isabella felt as if she had been slapped. Christian charity. In addition, Robert continued, Ms. Costa needs to sign a document confirming that there was never anything more than friendship between you and that any contrary insinuation is malicious speculation from the press. I'm not signing that. Isabella took the phone from Dominic's hands. You can all go to hell. Ms. Costa? Robert's voice became dangerously smooth. Good to talk to you. I hope you slept well in the Reed mansion. By the way, we have very interesting photos of you entering there last night. Isabella's blood ran cold. Photos that, combined with the bank transfers we discovered, paint a very clear picture of a young opportunist who got pregnant deliberately to blackmail a rich ex-boyfriend. That's a lie. Prove it. Actually, you don't have to prove anything. Just sign the document, and this version will never be published. Refuse, and tomorrow you'll be known nationally as the gold digger of the business world. Isabella hung up the phone forcefully, throwing it on the bed. They have everything planned, don't they? A perfect trap. Dominic watched her, guilt etched on his face. Isa, I can talk to other newspapers. Tell our version, and who's going to believe it? A corrupt tycoon and a pregnant poor teacher against the national press? She laughed bitterly. You really think our version matters? The door opened unceremoniously. Helena entered, already impeccably dressed for the day, carrying a tray with breakfast. Good morning, dears. I hope you slept well. Her false cordiality was more irritating than open hostility. I brought breakfast for Ms. Costa. After all, a pregnant woman needs to eat well. I don't want anything coming from you. What a pity, because you'll need energy for what's ahead. Helena placed the tray on the table and took some papers from her bag. The document you need to sign, and a small additional statement. Isabella picked up the papers, reading quickly. Non-disclosure agreement, restraining order, to ensure that you never approach our family again. Helena smiled sweetly. It's for the good of everyone, dear. I'm not signing that. You will. Helena showed her phone. Because if you don't sign, in 1 hour this photo will be in every newspaper in the country. On the screen, a photo of Isabella and Dominic at the hospital. He holding her hand during an ultrasound exam. There were other photos. Them talking intimately at the restaurant. Him helping her into the car. A kiss on the forehead that he had given when he thought no one was looking. How did you get these photos? You really think we left you alone yesterday? Every move was documented. Helena put away her phone. And the caption accompanying these photos is very interesting. Tycoon takes paternity of baby to cover up family corruption scheme. Isabella looked at Dominic, who was deathly pale. You knew, she whispered. No, Isa, I swear I didn't know. Of course you didn't know, Helena interrupted. My son has always been too naive for this world. Believes in true love, in happy endings. She turned to Isabella. But you're not naive, are you? You know exactly what's happening here. Suddenly, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place, everything became clear to Isabella. You orchestrated all this. Helena smiled, finally showing her true colors. The casual meeting at the apartment, the medical appointment, the dinner. You knew we would be photographed. You set it all up. My goodness, what a fertile imagination. You knew about Raphael, about the stolen money, about everything. And when Dominic decided to get involved, you saw the perfect opportunity. Isabella approached the older woman, her eyes shining with anger. You created a scandal so you could control him again. Helena didn't deny it. On the contrary, she seemed proud. Dominic has always been too stubborn. He needed to learn that certain people don't belong in our world. Mother, Dominic's voice was full of horror. You planned all this? I saved our family from a public disgrace. Again, Helena turned to him. Just like I did 8 years ago. 8 years ago? You really thought that girl would give up on you so easily? That she wouldn't try to fight for the relationship? Helena laughed. I had to be much more persuasive with her back then. Isabella felt the world spin. What did you do? Well, since we're being honest, Helena sat elegantly in the armchair. I made Dominic believe that you had accepted money to walk away from him, and I made you believe that he had left to marry someone else. The silence that followed was deafening. You lied to both of us. Dominic's voice came out as a horrified whisper. I protected our family, as I always do. Isabella was trembling, years of pain and confusion finally making sense. The letters. I wrote letters to him, that I intercepted, the phone calls, that I blocked. You destroyed our lives for 8 years. Dominic was almost screaming. You made us suffer for 8 years for nothing. For nothing? Helena stood up, furious. Look around you, Dominic. Look at everything we have. You think you would have achieved all this, married to a public school teacher? The contraction that hit Isabella was so strong that she doubled over in pain, holding her belly. Isa! Dominic ran to support her. Don't touch me! She pulled away from him, leaning against the wall. Don't ever touch me again. Isa, please. You're just like her. Tears streamed down her face. You let her make the decisions. You let her manipulate your life. You let her destroy the people you supposedly love. That's not true, isn't it? Isabella grabbed the papers that Helena had brought. Then don't sign these documents. Face the press. Tell the truth about your family, about your mother, about everything. Dominic looked at the papers, then at his mother, then at her. The silence stretched for an eternity. I need to think about the consequences. About the consequences, Isabella repeated, her voice dead. Of course. She picked up the pen on the table and quickly signed all the documents. Done. Now I don't exist for you anymore, and you don't exist for me anymore. She turned to Dominic. Congratulations. You finally made the choice your mother always wanted. Isa, wait. No. She opened the door of the room. It's over. This time I'm the one leaving. She descended the stairs of the mansion, each step echoing like a hammer hitting the coffin of the love she had carried for 8 years. At the door, the same security guard who had protected her during the night now escorted her out. Outside the mansion, 3 news vans awaited her. The cameras started flashing as soon as she appeared. Ms. Costa, is it true that Mr. Reed is paying for your pregnancy? Were you secret lovers? How much money did he offer you to stay silent? Isabella walked through the crowd of journalists, protecting her belly with her hands, while the cruel questions rained down on her like a storm. At the window of the 2nd floor, Dominic watched the woman he loved being torn apart by the press, knowing that he had been, again, responsible for putting her in this situation. And this time, he did nothing to stop it. 3 weeks had passed since Isabella had left the Reed mansion. 3 weeks living at her friend Carol's house in Queens, away from the spotlights and the cameras. 3 weeks trying to rebuild a life that had been shattered twice by the same man. The pregnancy had reached its end, 38 weeks, and Dr. Evans, the obstetrician at the public hospital where she would give birth, had said that the baby could be born at any moment. Isabella touched her belly constantly, whispering promises of protection to the son she would soon meet. Isa, you need to see this. Carol entered the room carrying the tablet, her face worried. It's about Dominic. I don't want to know anything about him. It's important. Please. Reluctantly, Isabella took the tablet. On the screen, an article from the Wall Street Journal website, Dominic Reed resigns as president of Reed Tech amid family scandal. Her eyes quickly scanned the text. Dominic had resigned from his position, claiming irreconcilable differences with the family board. The company's shares had plummeted, and Helena Reed had temporarily assumed total control. He resigned from everything, Isabella murmured. Keep reading. In an exclusive statement, the former CEO said he discovered irregularities in family management and that he could not, in good conscience, continue to lead a company built on questionable foundations. Reed declined to give details, but sources close to him confirm that he is cooperating with investigations by the IRS. Isabella handed the tablet back to Carol. So what? It's probably just a maneuver to clean up his image. Or maybe he finally grew a spine. Before Isabella could answer, the doorbell rang. Carol went to answer and returned with a confused expression. There's a man here who says he's a lawyer, wants to talk to you about Dominic. I don't want to talk to any Reed lawyer. He said he doesn't work for the Reeds. He works against them. Isabella frowned. What do you mean? The man who entered the room was different from what she expected. Short, middle-aged, with thick glasses and a simple suit. Nothing like the expensive lawyers she imagined the Reeds would hire. Ms. Costa, I'm Mr. Miller, a criminal defense attorney. He sat down in the chair that Carol offered. I came here because Mr. Dominic Reed hired me to investigate his own family. How? 2 weeks ago, he contacted me wanting to know the truth about his father's crimes and his mother's involvement in the blackmail you suffered. Mr. Miller opened his briefcase, and what we discovered is much worse than we imagined. Isabella felt a mild contraction and settled more comfortably in her chair. Continue. First, about the money that was transferred to your account. It was clean. Dominic used his own resources, from legal investments he himself made, separate from the family company. How can he prove that? Because he gave me access to all his financial documents from the last 10 years. Every penny is duly declared and with proven origin. Mr. Miller took a folder from the briefcase, including this money, which he wants you to receive. Isabella looked at the thick envelope. I don't want anything from him. It's the $20,000 that Raphael stole from you, plus interest and monetary correction. It's not a gift, Ms. Costa, it's restitution. Restitution? Because Raphael didn't run away on his own. He was forced to leave the city. Isabella's heart accelerated. Forced by whom? By Helena Reed. She sent thugs to threaten him and his family, said that if he didn't disappear, he and his sister would lose their jobs, their financed house would be foreclosed, and he would suffer an accident. Isabella paled. Helena did that? Dominic only found out the truth last week when he managed to track Raphael down to Seattle. He's working there as a waiter, afraid to come back. Mr. Miller took out another document. Raphael recorded the conversation with Helena's thugs. It's all here. Isabella's hands trembled as she took the flash drive he offered. But there's more, much more. What? Helena wasn't being blackmailed by the journalist Robert Baker. She was paying him to create the scandal. Isabella's world stopped. How? Robert Baker works for a public relations firm hired by Helena 2 months ago. The whole scandal was fabricated to force the separation between you two and make Dominic submit completely to her control. Carol, who had heard everything in silence, finally spoke. That woman is a monster. And 8 years ago, Isabella asked, already suspecting the answer. The same thing. Helena paid people to intercept correspondence, block phone calls, create false evidence that both had moved on. Mr. Miller took more documents from the folder. We have receipts, recordings, witnesses. She orchestrated everything. Isabella stood up abruptly, walking to the window. The anger she felt was so intense that the baby started to move agitatedly. Why are you telling me this? Because Dominic wants to sue his own mother for slander, defamation, extortion, threats. He wants her to pay for all the crimes she committed. Mr. Miller stood up too. But he needs your help. My help. As the main victim, your testimony would be fundamental. And he hesitated. He wanted you to know that he's doing this, even knowing that he may lose you forever. What does he mean by that? That he understands if you can't forgive him. That he understands if you want him to stay away from your life. But that he couldn't let Helena continue destroying people with impunity. Isabella returned to the sofa, feeling another contraction. And if I agree to help, what happens to Helena? With the evidence we have, prison, loss of all assets obtained criminally, total public destruction. Mr. Miller smiled for the first time. She would face everything she made you face, only for real. Isabella's phone rang. It was an unknown number, but she recognized the voice immediately. Isabella? It was Helena Reed, but her voice was different, desperate. We need to talk. I have nothing to talk to you about. Please don't hang up. I know Dominic hired lawyers. I know he's trying to destroy me. But you don't understand. If he does that, it won't just be me who falls. It will be him too. Isabella looked at Mr. Miller, who nodded for her to continue the conversation. What do you mean? Dominic isn't as innocent as he's pretending to be. He signed documents, moved dirty money, participated in meetings where criminal decisions were made. Helena's voice was desperate. If he denounces me, I'll drag him down with me. You're lying. Am I? Then ask him about the meeting on March 15th of last year, when he authorized the transfer of $5 million to an account in the Cayman Islands. Ask about the contracts with the Almeida Construction Company, which he signed knowing they were overpriced. Ask about... Isabella hung up the phone, her heart racing. Is it true? She asked Mr. Miller. Dominic is involved in the crimes too. The lawyer hesitated for a moment too long. Mr. Miller, it's complicated. Technically, yes, Dominic signed some questionable documents, but always under pressure and manipulation from his mother, believing he was saving jobs or protecting the company. But still, he signed. Yes. Isabella closed her eyes, feeling the weight of yet another betrayal. Even now, trying to do the right thing, Dominic had omitted part of the truth. The phone rang again. This time it was him. Isa, please don't hang up. My mother called you, didn't she? She did. And she told me some interesting things about your participation in the family crimes. A long silence. I wanted to tell you personally. When? After I agreed to help you? After I committed publicly to your version of the facts? You lied to me again, Dominic. Even now, even trying to do the right thing, you lied. She hung up the phone and turned to Mr. Miller. I want to sue both of them. Helena for the crimes she committed against me, and Dominic for complicity and for deceiving me again. Ms. Costa. No. Enough of powerful
Her voice
men
was firm,
thinking they can
determined.
manipulate my life. Enough of half-truths and omissions. If it's war they want, it's war they'll get. At this moment, a much stronger contraction made her double over in pain. Carol, she shouted, I think it's time. While Carol ran to get the maternity bag, Isabella looked at Mr. Miller. You have 24 hours to prepare the lawsuits against both of them. I'm going to have this baby, and then I'm going to destroy this family the same way they destroyed my life. For the first time in weeks, Isabella Reed felt that she had control of her own story. Gabriel's birth had lasted 12 hours. 12 hours of intense pain, but also of a fierce determination that Isabella never knew she possessed. When she finally held her son in her arms in the small room of St. Francis Municipal Hospital, she knew that she would fight the whole world for that baby. Carol was dozing in the chair next to her when soft knocks on the door woke her up. It was Mr. Miller, carrying white flowers and a cautious smile. How is little Gabriel? Perfect. Isabella adjusted the baby in her arms, admiring his small, clenched fists. And the documents. Ready. But before you sign, you need to know some things that have happened in the last 24 hours. Isabella looked at him suspicious. What things? Helena Reed was arrested last night. Isabella's jaw dropped. How? Dominic turned over all the evidence to the FBI without waiting for your decision, without protecting himself. He took the blame for everything he did, even knowing that he would be arrested too. He was arrested. Not yet, he's under house arrest, cooperating with the investigations. But Isabella, Mr. Miller sat down in the chair that Carol had vacated. He did more than that. What? He gave up all the family's assets, everything, the mansion, the companies, the offshore accounts. Everything will be used to compensate the victims of his father's crimes. The lawyer took some papers from his briefcase, and he made a donation of $5 million to a fund supporting single mothers. In your name. Isabella felt her heart race, but forced herself to keep her voice firm. He thinks he can buy me off? No. He thinks he can show you that he's changed. For real this time. The door opened again, and a nurse entered smiling. Ms. Costa, there's someone here wanting to meet the baby, a gentleman who says he's the grandfather. Isabella frowned. Grandfather? My father died when I was little, and Raphael's father. Actually, Mr. Miller interrupted, it's another surprise that Dominic prepared. Raphael entered the room timidly, carrying a bouquet of yellow roses. He was thinner, unshaven, but alive and seemingly well. Hi, Isa. Raphael. Isabella couldn't believe what she was seeing. But you, how? Dominic brought me back from Seattle. He explained everything, about his mother's threats, about how I was forced to run away. Raphael approached the bed slowly. And he asked me to come meet our son. He did that? He did. He said that even if you never forgive him, Gabriel has the right to know his biological father. Raphael looked at the baby with tears in his eyes. Can I hold him? With trembling hands, Isabella handed Gabriel to Raphael. Seeing them together, father and son, stirred something deep in her heart. Isa, I need to ask you for forgiveness. For everything, for running away, for stealing your money, for abandoning you when you needed me most. Raphael couldn't take his eyes off the baby. I was scared, but that doesn't justify what I did. Why did you come back? Because Dominic made me understand that running away from problems doesn't solve anything. It only creates bigger problems. Raphael finally looked at her. And because I want to be Gabriel's father, for real. If you let me, Isabella looked at Mr. Miller, who watched the scene in silence. Where's Dominic? Outside, waiting for 6 hours. He's here. He arrived as soon as he knew you had gone into labor. He's been in the waiting room ever since. Isabella's heart pounded. Bring him here. Isa. Raphael looked at her worriedly. It's okay. I need to talk to him. When Dominic entered the room, Isabella almost didn't recognize him. The impeccably dressed man had given way to someone in worn jeans and a rumpled shirt. He was unshaven and had red eyes from exhaustion and worry. Hi, his voice came out hoarse. Hi. Dominic looked at Raphael holding Gabriel, and something passed through his eyes. Not jealousy, but a kind of resigned peace. He's beautiful, Isa. He looks like you. Dominic. Isabella didn't know where to start. Before you say anything, I need to talk. He approached the bed but kept a respectful distance. I know you hate me. I know I'll never get your forgiveness for what I did, for the lies, for letting my mother destroy our lives twice. Dominic! But I needed you to know that this time it's different. Not because I say it is, but because I proved that it is. He took some papers from his pocket. These are the donation documents. Everything I have now is yours, for you and for Gabriel. Isabella took the papers, her eyes widening as she saw the numbers. Dominic, this is everything that was left after I paid the victims of my family's crimes, $15 million. He knelt beside the bed. It's not to buy me back, Isa. It's to ensure that you and Gabriel never go through hardship again, even if I'm arrested, even if you hate me forever. Get up. Her voice came out softer than she expected. Please. Dominic stood up but continued to avoid looking directly at her. Your mother called me yesterday, said that you're also guilty of the crimes. I am. Technically, legally, morally. I signed documents that I shouldn't have signed. I participated in meetings where wrong decisions were made. He finally looked at her. But this time, I'm not going to run away from the consequences. I'm going to pay for everything I did. Raphael, who had observed everything in silence, approached Dominic. Man, I need to thank you for bringing me back, for giving me the chance to meet my son. He extended his hand. And for loving Issa the way she deserves to be loved. Dominic shook his hand, his eyes watery. Gabriel is lucky to have a father who wants to fight for him. And you? Raphael asked. Are you going to fight for Issa? I already fought. I lost. Dominic turned to leave. But she won, and that's what matters. Dominic, wait. He stopped at the door without turning around. Look at me. Slowly, he turned around. His eyes were full of unshed tears. I love you. The words came out simple, direct. I've always loved you. Even when I hated you, even when I wanted to forget you, I love you. Dominic closed his eyes, as if the words were too painful to hear. But, Isabella continued, love isn't enough. It never was. I know. Then tell me, what's changed? What has really changed this time? Dominic opened his eyes and looked at her with an intensity that she hadn't seen in years. I've changed, not for you, not to win you back, but because I discovered who I really am when I don't have money, power, or family to hide behind. He took a step towards the bed. I discovered that I prefer to be poor and honest than rich and corrupt. That I prefer to face the consequences of my mistakes than to live lying. And that I prefer to love you from afar, knowing that you're happy, than to try to possess you again. Isabella held out her hand. Come here. Hesitantly, Dominic approached and took her hand. Promise me one thing. Anything. Promise that if I give you a third chance, you'll never lie to me again. You'll never make decisions for me again. You'll never try to protect me without consulting me. Isa, his voice was a hopeful whisper. Promise that we'll build something new, based on truth, on trust, on equality. That you'll love me as a partner, not as someone who needs to be saved. I promise. With my life, I promise. Isabella pulled him closer and whispered, then meet your son. With trembling hands, Dominic received Gabriel from Raphael's arms. The baby opened his dark eyes and seemed to study the face of the man who was holding him. Hi, little Gabriel. Dominic spoke softly, his voice choked with emotion. I'm someone who loves your mother very much and who really wants to be part of your life, if you let me. Gabriel made a small noise as if approving. I think he liked you, Raphael commented, smiling. Raphael, Isabella called his attention. Do you really want to be Gabriel's father? Really, not out of guilt or obligation? More than anything in the world. And you, Dominic? Do you want to be the stepfather of a baby who isn't biologically yours? Issa, I want to be everything you let me be. Father, stepfather, friend, partner. The title doesn't matter. What matters is being present. Isabella looked at the two men. One who had loved her and left her, another who had abandoned her and returned. Both imperfect, both regretful, both willing to fight for a chance to start over. Then let's try. She smiled for the first time in weeks. Let's try to build a different kind of family. Not perfect, but honest. Not traditional, but full of love. 6 months later, in the small house in Brooklyn that Dominic had bought, in her name, as he was keen to emphasize, Gabriel gave his first laughs as he played with the two men he had learned to call Dad. Dominic was serving his sentence on work release, working as a consultant for small businesses during the day and returning home every night. Raphael had landed a job as a teacher at a nearby school and visited Gabriel 3 times a week. Helena remained in prison and likely would for many years. And Isabella finally had learned that true love wasn't about perfect endings, but about honest beginnings, about imperfect people choosing every day to try to be better for each other. As she watched Dominic teach Gabriel to clap his hands and Raphael prepare dinner humming, she knew she had made the right choice. Not the easy choice, not the perfect choice, but the true choice. And for the first time in a long time, Isabella Costa felt completely at home.